headlines with the grand opening of Sochi 2014 just a mere hours away. We look into what we can expect from the most expensive Olympic Games in history. Ahead of the reunions of families separated by the Korean War set to take place in 2 weeks' time, a group of South Korean officials crossed the border to check the venue and facilities there. It's just a matter of time before the Korean version name of EC will be used next to the Japanese version of C of Japan in school textbooks in the U.S. state of Virginia, where the House passes a related bill. With these stories and more, next on Primetime News. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Friday, February 7th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I am Yoo Ji-hye.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, preparations for the upcoming reunions of war-divided families are underway, with a team of South Korean engineers having visited the North to inspect the facilities of the much-anticipated event.
But there is no guarantee that the reunions will take place as planned in 2 weeks' time after Pyongyang's threat to reconsider the agreement. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee reports.
With less than 2 weeks left until the reunions for families separated since the Korean War, 64 South Korean officials crossed the border on Friday morning to check the facilities at the reunion site in the north. The engineers will make sure that the electricity and communication lines at the Mount Kumgang resort are up and running well in time for the reunions. The two Koreas confirmed that 85 South Koreans and 94 North Koreans will take part in the event. South Korea's Unification Ministry explained that some family members selected last year are unable to make the trip this time, as they have passed away or have fallen sick. Millions of Koreans were separated from their families during the Korean War more than 6 decades ago. Around 70,000 South Koreans, most of whom are now in their 80s, are on a waiting list to see their loved ones one last time. But will the reunions take place from February 20th to the 25th as planned? Just a day after the Koreas agreed to resume the reunions, North Korea called on the South to halt an upcoming annual military drill with the United States and threatened to reconsider the agreement. The reunion dates coincide with Seoul and Washington's Key Resolve exercises, which begin in the last week of February every year. South Korea said that the annual military exercises are purely defensive in nature and reiterated that it would deal with the North's objections to the drills separately from the family reunions. North Korea has a history of pulling the plug on such meetings in the past. Just last September, Pyongyang canceled a round of family reunions just 4 days before the event, disappointing hundreds of people on both sides of the border. If held, it would have been the first reunion event since 2010. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has urged North Korea not to cause any more sorrow for the families separated since the Korean War by canceling an upcoming round of reunions.
Speaking at the presidential office of Cheongwon on Friday, the president said she was delighted that the North had accepted Seoul's proposal to resume the reunions, but warned that the North could cancel the event or change the schedule abruptly, using the Seoul-Washington joint military drills as an excuse. She emphasized that obstacles have appeared whenever there have been good signs in inter-Korean relations in the past, and said the South should remain on full alert for any possible provocations from the North. And you can now add U.S. President Barack Obama to the list of people calling for the release of Korean-American Kenneth Bae, who's been detained in North Korea for over a year now.
It's the first time the U.S. leader has ever mentioned Bae's situation publicly. Our Shin Se-min reports on the efforts to bring Bae back home.
U.S. President Barack Obama offered a prayer Thursday for the quick and safe release of detained Korean-American Kenneth Bae. Speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast, an annual gathering of lawmakers and numerous faith leaders, Obama said Bae, a Christian missionary sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in North Korea, should be set free, and the U.S. will do everything it can to help him.
His family wants him home, and the United States will continue to do everything in our power to secure his release because Kenneth Bae deserves to be free.
Washington has already offered to send a special envoy to North Korea to secure Bae's release, but Pyongyang hasn't mustered up a response. It was the first time Obama has mentioned Kenneth Bae, and a strong sign the State Department is taking the matter seriously. Bae was arrested in North Korea in November 2012 when he was working in the country as a tourist guide. The North charged him with crimes against the state and attempting to overthrow the regime. At the gathering, Obama also said China should do more to recognize the freedom of religion, calling it essential to the country's national security.
When I meet with Chinese leaders, and we do a lot of business with the Chinese, but I stress that realizing China's potential rests on upholding universal rights, including for Christians and Tibetan Buddhists and Uyghur Muslims.
Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Some daunting revelations on North Korea's rocket development. Recent satellite images indicate that the communist state is nearly done upgrading its main rocket launch pad.
And that means it could complete construction by next month or April. Citing an image on its website, 38 North, the U.S.-Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University says that at the 11th level has been added to the launch pad in Dongchangni at the northwest coast Sohae launch site. The modification would allow for a long-range rocket of up to 50 meters in length, which is larger than the 30-meter Unha-3 rocket that was launched by the North in 2012. The institute said the Unha-9, a slightly larger model, could be launched once construction is done, but that it will take the North years to build much bigger rockets. And it's just going to be a matter of time before the U.S. state of Virginia's school textbooks use the Korean name EC next to the Japanese name Sea of Japan for the body of water between the two countries.
The lower house in the U.S. state of Virginia has passed a bill, and the state governor's signature is now all the bill needs to take effect as law. Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Starting with the next school year, students in the U.S. state of Virginia will very likely learn that the body of water between Korea and Japan is known not only by the Japanese name Sea of Japan, but also by the Korean name East Sea. The Virginia House of Delegates passed a bill by a wide margin of 81-15 on Thursday, requiring that the state education board only approve textbooks that use both names. Virginia House District Delegate Mark Kim explained what the bill means for Koreans.
When they opened up the textbooks of their children and they saw that a map that reminds them of their oppression, that reminds them of the invasion, that reminds them of that body of water that was crossed by the Japanese to come and annex that nation for 35 years.
The State House and the Senate, which approved a similar bill late last month, will now send the bill to Governor Terry McAuliffe for him to sign it into law. During his election campaign last year, the governor spoke in favor of the Korean view and has indicated he will sign on the dotted line. The bill will produce a seemingly minor change in school texts, but the Korean government and the large Korean American community in Virginia are hailing the revision as they consider the Japanese name to be a legacy of Japan's imperialistic past. Japan had threatened to suspend investment in Virginia if the state legislature approves the bill.
We have to celebrate the passage of the bill and be proud of our 150,000 Korean Americans that led the victory.
This is the first time such a bill has been passed by a state legislature in the United States. The bill also goes against the State Department's policy of only using one name, in this case the Sea of Japan, largely for the sake of clarity. Korean media outlets are reporting that the bill's passage will give the Korean American community a stronger voice. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Before your day ends and another begins, get the latest news live from Seoul.
Residents whose features restrictions is on the rise. Closing ceremony.
Expert analysis from Asia's heartbeat.
The legislature, circumstances.
With a viewpoint only Korea's global network can provide.
The United States, the latest report.
Unrivaled access from a team always on standby.
Came on maneuver, trying to cover up the South's true intentions.
Last month, Korea suffered its worst ever security breach of client information from 3 leading credit firms. In order to prevent similar data leaks from happening again in the future, the government is considering an overhaul of major identification numbers, including the country's resident registration system. Our Paul Yi reports on the modern cost of security.
Starting in early August, the government will ban both public agencies and private companies from collecting or keeping resident registration numbers without proper legal grounds. In addition, President Park Geun-hye issued orders this past week to review the national ID system due to recent security concerns.
외국의 사례도 참고를 해서 주민등록번호와 함께 개인을 식별할 수 있는 다른 대안은 없는지도 검토해 주기를 바랍니다.
The sweeping new security measures come after some 20 million Korean citizens had their personal and financial data stolen last month. Korea's current 13-digit personal identification number has been used for decades, but poses security risks since it indicates the person's birth date and where they were born.
The resident registration number itself should not be such a powerful system. Even if you only have their registration number, you are able to infer other information about that person.
The Ministry of Security and Public Administration is looking into new certification methods that will better protect personal information. Some of the measures being explored include using secondary ID numbers for authentication purposes, such as driver's licenses and military serial numbers. Other more drastic options include scrapping the current resident registration number altogether.
Whether it's issuing other numbers with respect to different fields or assigning other numbers, I believe we should study and review a wide range of alternatives.
Over the next week, the presidential office will receive government reports on ways to improve the national ID system in order to prevent future abuses of personal information and strengthen public privacy. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Ssangyong Motor, Korea's 4th largest automaker, may have to reinstate more than 150 workers who were laid off 5 years ago after a court here ruled that their dismissal was invalid. The Seoul High Court on Friday ruled in favor of the 153 workers, overturning an earlier ruling after they filed a suit, arguing that their dismissal by the company in 2009 was unreasonable as management did not make enough efforts to avoid the layoffs. In 2009, the company fired about 2,600 workers after it was put under court receivership following the 2008 global financial crisis. The plaintiffs will be able to return to their workplace if the ruling is upheld by the nation's top court. The auto company plans to appeal the case.
You may remember Korean tech giant Samsung sealing a deal with Google on patents. Well, the electronics giant has inked another patent cross-licensing deal, this time with Cisco Systems, a worldwide leader in networking, to minimize legal disputes and focus on innovation. Our Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has signed a 10-year patent cross-licensing deal with Cisco Systems. The deal comes days after similar agreements between Samsung and Google and another between Cisco and Google. The deals are expected to give the firms more room to innovate without worrying about legal disputes over intellectual property. Samsung went to court 38 times last year for patent disputes, and its legal battle with Apple that spans more than 10 countries is dragging into its 3rd year. Samsung has one of the largest numbers of patents in the world with around 100,000, while Cisco has around 9,700 and Google 50,000. Local media outlets in Korea say Samsung's recent cross-licensing deal will give Samsung and Cisco time to prepare for the latest trend in the tech world, the Internet of Things, in which products ranging from cars to household goods are connected to the Internet or electronic devices. Cisco is one of the leading companies in the Internet of Things. John Chambers, Cisco's chairman and CEO, said last month during his keynote at the Consumer Electronics Show, the Internet of Everything will forever change our daily lives. For businesses, Chambers said it would be a $19 trillion opportunity. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Korea's shipbuilding industry got off to a smooth start this year, logging the most global orders in January. London-based Clarkson Research Services said Friday that Korean shipbuilders won orders totaling nearly 1.7 million compensated gross tons last month, a jump of more than 115% from the same period last year. The figure represents more than 45% of the total global shipbuilding market. The Chinese shipbuilders won the second highest volume of orders at 1.2 million CGTs, or 34% the global total. The pickup is attributed to Korean shipbuilding companies winning more contracts for larger, more expensive ships, such as container vessels and LNG-fueled ships.
We have about 3 hours to go until the Olympic torch is lit in the main stadium in the Russian resort city of Sochi. And for more on what we can expect from the biggest ever Winter Games, we have our Olympics correspondent Song Ji-sun joining us in the studio. Hello there.
Good evening.
All right, Ji-sun, the competition may have already started at the Sochi Games, but Olympics don't really get started until we're wowed by the opening ceremony. So walk us through what we can expect when it actually rolls out.
Well, tonight the time is what it matters, and the opening ceremony will start in Sochi at 8:14 p.m. or 2014 like this year. That's 1:14 a.m. on a Saturday morning here in Seoul. Now we have some footage for you from the rehearsal here. And the performances with extravagant costumes and grandiose music are reportedly portray the past, present, and the future of Russia, with classics like Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake filling the stadium. Now wait until we find out who'll be the last to carry the torch into the stadium. We have the entrance order for the opening ceremony for the 88 participating countries. Greece will be the first, and host nation Russia will be the last to step in, according to the Olympic tradition. Team Korea will be the 60th to enter Fish Stadium based on the alphabetical order of the Russian language. The flag bearer for Team Korea will be the 36-year-old skater Lee Kyu-hyuk, a 6-time Olympian who is participating in his last Olympic Games.
And we've heard that there are going to be new sports added to this Olympics. What's going to be different about Sochi?
Well, the Sochi Olympic Games has the most sport programs, as with the most new ones introduced. Now, 12 new sports have been added to Olympics this year, making a total of 98 gold medals up for grabs. Take a look at the slopestyle event for freestyle skiing and snowboarding, which is a combination of clearing obstacles like rails and boxes, as well as big jumps, which will debut at Sochi 2014, with the qualifying round of men's snowboarding slopestyle becoming the first event of the Sochi Olympics on Thursday. The team event for skier skating is also new in Sochi, and so is the women's ski jumping and the freestyle skiing for halfpipe. A Korean female athlete is taking part in that event as well.
Well, speaking of Team Korea, tell us more about some of the athletes that we should look out for and their medal prospects.
Right, for Team Korea, gold medal is what really matters, and the squad is shooting for a 7th overall finish with at least 4 gold medals to stay in the top 10 for a 3rd consecutive Winter Games. But the foreign press are anticipating an even better result for the Team Korea with at least 5 to 6 gold medals, which is exactly the same number as the team's final results back in Vancouver 4 years ago. Now, all these medals are likely to come from returning champions from Vancouver. Olympic and world champion figure skater Kim Yeon-ah is the favorite to win her 2nd gold at Sochi, and it's difficult to see a prominent skater who can rival her triples and the quality of her artistic expression. Speed skater Lee Sang-hwa has renewed her own world record over the last 4 years, and her fellow Mo Tae-bum is the current world champion in the 500 meters. Lee Seung-hoon, who is a former short track skater, is after gold in both the 5 and 10,000 meter races. The speed skating trio and the short track skaters will kick off their races right after this opening weekend, so be sure to catch these games, as the first medal from Team Korea may come from these skaters. And just a few days before the closing ceremony, figure skating legend Kim Yeon-ah will be getting ready for what's expected to be the finale of her unprecedented skating career. She's hoping to once again top her own world record and perform to her last free skating program, the tango Adios Nonino.
All right, thank you, Ji-sun, for that Olympic preview, and we'll also talk to you again back here next week as the games are underway.
Right, I'll get you all the results and the schedules next week.
Apart from the excitement of the opening ceremony of the Sochi Games taking place in just a few hours, let's not forget about sports from other parts of the world.
For that, we have Stephen Chase standing by. Hello there.
Hey, Gia. Hey, Sean. Well, I can't wait for the Winter Olympics to begin, and we'll have all the updates and results for you during the next 2 weeks. But let's talk about other sports for now, starting with golf. Now, round one of the AT&T Pebble Beach National Pro-Am Tournament opened, and it was a beautiful day to hit the greens. On the pro side, PGA Tour rookie Andrew Lupe leads after shooting an 8-under 63, while Stuart Appleby and partner Charles Schwab topped the Pro-Am leaderboard. Play was called due to the darkness, but it'll resume on the next day of play. Now moving on to football, German league, the Bundesliga, put together a video of the 10 best goals by Koreans in league history. They were epic goals from former league players like the legendary Cha Bum-gun, An Jung-hwan, and the junior Cha Duri to current players like Son Heung-min, Chi Dong-won, and Koo Ja-chul. Well, Koo had 3 nods on the list, but it was Cha Duri's laser strike against Dortmund in 2006 that got the top spot. Meanwhile, over in Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies will honor one of their all-time greats, Todd Helton, by retiring his jersey number 17. And fittingly, it'll happen on August 17th when they host the Cincinnati Reds at home in Coors Field. Helton, who retired at the end of last season, played his entire 17-year career for the Rockies, racking up a slew of team batting records. And heading to the NBA hardcourt, the Brooklyn Nets blew by a depleted San Antonio Spurs 103-89 to finally end a nearly 4-year 6-game losing streak against them. Allen Anderson dropped 22 points for the Nets, with the Spurs trio of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili all sitting out. And on that note, let's end with Friday's KBL action. First, KGC takes down Samsung 84-83 in a close one, but now we go on to the game of the night. It's the 3rd and 4th place teams, the LG Sakers and ET Land Elephants, battling. LG blasts out the gate with 30 in the first before going into the half up 21 points. Now the second half, ET Land can't buy a bucket. LG's rookie big man Kim Jong-gyu ends with a team-high 16 points as his team wins big 86-59. And that does it for me here in the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
We had another mild winter day here in Seoul, but some regions are seeing snow at this hour.
For more, let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, what's the latest?
Good evening, Sean and Jihae. The Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-pukdo provinces are under heavy snowfall advisories, and so far over 20 centimeters of snow has fallen in the city of Gangneung in Gangwon-do, and more snow is to come through tomorrow. Over 60 centimeters of snow will fall on the mountains in Gangwon. Elsewhere in Gangwon and parts of Gyeongsang-pukdo province, 20 to 40 centimeters of snow will fall. In the central regions and Ulleung and Dokdo Island, 1 to 3 centimeters are forecast, so it won't be much. Moving on to our satellite map, the nation is at the edge of a high-pressure system that is moving eastward, which is why we're seeing heavy clouds across the map. Now keep in mind that the snow will gradually stop by tomorrow afternoon, but resume later at night, so please be sure to have an umbrella with you and be careful behind the wheel. Luckily, temperatures will rise a tad bit compared to today, so no worries of another cold snap. Other than that, the dry weather warning is still in effect in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province. Taking a look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at 0 degrees with a high of 4. Meanwhile, Daegu and Gwangju hit 6. Moving on to other regions, well, there looks to be rain in Jeju from tomorrow morning through the afternoon with a daytime high of 8 degrees, and it will be a cloudy day on Dokdo and Mount Kumgang tops out at -7. Well, hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you again after midnight.
And that's a broadcast on this Friday night. I'm Yuji Hae in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.